The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Greigg, and most of the time I have my co-host Jacqueline Ray Smith with me, but today it's just me. And frankly, I'm kind of okay with that because I got this special guest with me today, and I am super excited to have this guest on the podcast with me today. This guy is a kinesiology professor who has studied sports and exercise psychology over the last decade plus, but he's also an incredibly talented DJ and producer. And for those of you that know, my previous career was a DJ. So selfishly, I was super excited to bring to the show. He's got over 20 million streams on his mixes. 15-Point Plan podcast listeners, I'd like to welcome DJ Brandon Wade. Brandon, say hello.
Hey, DJ Horn. Wah, 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 wah.
Exactly. I was going to say, I hope Dave can insert that air horn right there.
Oh, that'd be funny. That'd be great. Set the tone right off the bat. Yeah.
But you got the air horn in there for us, Brandon. So, Brandon, thank you for joining us today. It's an honor to have you on the show.
My pleasure.
So again, his name is DJ Brandon Wade, and you're probably wondering how I came across Brandon. As you all know, I've been doing this podcast for quite a while, and I'm passionate about fitness and I'm passionate about exercise. And there was a lot of times where I was working out and, you know, as a DJ and having tons of friends that are DJs, I have no shortage of music, but I'm always looking for really good music, frankly. And Brandon, one day I just Googled workout mix or workout music, and I came across a bunch. But then I came across yours and I started playing it. I'm like, okay, this one's pretty cool. And it's like super unique, cool remixes. And I let the whole thing play. And I'm like, how have I never heard of this guy? And then I sent it to my trainer, and I sent it to another friend, and I sent it to my other friends. And then I was like, wait, there's like 100 of these. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, okay, I found some gold here. So I went down the DJ Brandon Wade rabbit hole, Brandon, and I found a ton of mixes, man. And honestly, I've shared them with a lot of people, and I get a ton of joy out of them. And so I said, look, anybody that I've talked to about health and wellness and fitness, I think needs to know about this guy and needs to hear his music, because I think it will change and affect in a positive way how they work out. So thank you, Brandon, for changing my life with music and fitness.
Oh man, I'm super honored. I post these mixes all the time, and I don't really get to talk to anybody about it. I'll see a comment here and there, but like face to face to hear that wow. It's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I mean it. And as a DJ, I have hundreds of hours of music online myself. I did a radio show for years, and so I can't go to like a wedding and not just stare at the DJ and watch them.
Yeah,
it's the curse. It's the curse. And I'll tell you, man, like not just as a DJ, but just as a human and somebody that likes to work out, your mixes work. Like they work to get me in the zone. They're great music. And when I was reading about you, Brandon, you talk about the correlation of music and fitness, and you have this thing saying fitness should be fun.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit and what that means to you, that how fitness should be fun and how you're using music to help make fitness more fun for people like me?
Okay, so yeah, my background is really motivational psychology for fitness and performance psychology, and working at various colleges for over a decade. I taught a bunch of different classes, whether it was lecture classes but also group fitness classes, and on a daily basis I saw how people struggled with fitness. And I've been a DJ since I was 13 years old, and it was through kind of these daily experiences I thought, well, let me see if I can create music mixes that help people enjoy the process more. And what I saw was, it sounds so obvious. The more fun people were having, the more likely they're going to show up consistently. And in our society, all the marketing for fitness is really about results, getting results first. And from just, all the research, all the data, not many people are motivated by results. It's less than 20%. Usually these are type A personalities who like pain and suffering anyways. It gives their brain dopamine, but most people aren't motivated by results. They're motivated through the short-term feeling of pleasure that they can get from a specific activity. And so I thought, well, with music, and people love music, it makes them feel good, but we get burned out on music pretty quickly. So can I come up with song combinations that get people excited and release them, all the time? So my mixes are a combination of mashups, regular songs, remixes, all the stuff done in a way that's unpredictable, familiar, and I lead you to a place that you hopefully like. And when the brain experiences that something that's familiar and kind of unpredictable at the same time, like, well, I think I know this, where am I going? And then boom, you like it. The brain gets a hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
When we get dopamine during the activity that we're doing, we're more than likely going to repeat that activity over time. So my music is kind of the formula to get this going and to hopefully make fitness more fun. I have people that they clean houses and play the mixes all day long.
Yeah.
They drive Uber or they play the mixes. Like the idea is it's this thing that can make maybe a kind of a lame or a boring activity more exciting. You can get lost in the music when people struggle with movement, they're focusing on all right, I have to find movement that I like. Well, most movements pretty much the same. Going for the walk is going to be the same every day. So can you add a new element to it to make it more interesting? So one thing is music, or it's invite a friend, or it's go to a totally different fitness place where it's a new environment.
Right.
All of these things, to me, newness equals fun. Nuance equals fun. So when I say it needs to be fun, it's not just, oh, hey, I snap my fingers having a good time. It's are there ingredients involved here that make you, just like, oh yeah, this was cool. This was different. This is unique. I like what I'm doing here. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with that, but that's kind of a quick version.
Well, I think you nailed a lot there. I mean, I think you're right. Like the majority of the population isn't like David Goggins, that everything has to be hard. And like I get benefit, I get joy from the hard. That's not most people.
Right.
And the thing with working out, especially if you're just getting started, the results just take too long. You're not going to see results quick enough. And you might give up if you're not having fun, or you're addicted and want to go back, or you have the right environment that you want to go to.
Right. Absolutely. I would tell people, don't set results goals right away. I mean, have them as like a secondary goal, but the main goal, if you want to get involved in fitness more and have a good fitness routine, is find a way to, the funnest thing you can find first. Find a way to get addicted to it, and then set the goals later, or at least have them in the back of your mind. But if you're not having fun and you're using willpower to get through it, it's not going to stick for most people. Or you get to your goal and then you quit because you didn't figure out how to have fun along the way. So there's lots of choices for fitness out there. I mean, going to a gym with a great fitness instructor that has great music is absolutely a way for a lot of people who maybe haven't worked out in a gym in a while, because you get the social element. It's fun. Just, I guess, incorporating social, incorporating good teaching, incorporating good music. All of these things should be a factor in the workout program or the workout gym you're looking to choose.
You know what I love about that too, Brandon, is at being a DJ that used to DJ in clubs, or just a person that used to go to clubs. I don't drink anymore and haven't for a long time, but I joke now that I love going to that club so much more, which is the fitness club with a party. It's the same. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, it's a party, and there's a hype man, which is just your instructor.
Right. Yeah.
And that joke went on for years with me. Like, look, this is my new club. This is the club I belong at, not the club I used to go to and was there 3 or 4 in the morning and drinking. I don't love that anymore. But, and you mentioned the environment and being in the gym. And I think there's so much to say about having that environment and the gym and being in a group setting. But I work out at my house. I have a gym at my house and I work out by myself. And what I love about your mixes, man, is like, I would be embarrassed if some people saw me dance the way I do when your mixes are playing. And you talked about that creativeness and kind of that surprise of what's coming. You have this rock and roll mix, and there's a part where Little John goes into Lenny Kravitz, and Little John says, lean with it and rock with it. And then you loop the rock with it. And then Lenny Kravitz comes in. I did not see that coming. And every freaking time I hear it, it gets me so, like, I'm dancing, I'm moving, and I'm having fun. Mm-hmm. So that mix, even though I'm like in the gym sweating, I'm having so much fun doing that. So you're on to something here with that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, for the listeners, that's what I try to do with music. Is it's not just a playlist; it's a musical experience. Yeah. I look at every mix, or most of them. Some of them I just do a straightforward hip hop mix, fine. But a majority, and the kind you're talking about, which are my multi-genre kind of madness mixes. Yeah. It's almost like a movie. You go on this adventure. You don't know where you're going, but you have a feeling you're going to like where you end up. And again, it's unpredictable, but it's familiar. You just mentioned 2 songs that I blended together. You know both songs. Yep. So the familiarity is important. But then when they come together, it's like, oh, I didn't know that could happen. When the brain has that thought, I didn't know that, but I like it. Boom, that's dopamine. That's where you start dancing, you start moving, and more than likely you're going to repeat that activity. And so there is a formula to it. Anybody can find a DJ mix, a workout mix, but what I tell people is a lot of those are just, it's like a DJ made a mix for working out, but it's kind of like hiring a sushi chef to come in your backyard and make carne asada tacos.
Yeah, right.
Like, all right, it might do the job, but it's not really the specialty. And so I've, for years, have only focused on making DJ mixes for the fitness industry, for people to work out. And so, and equally, you can't play these mixes at a party. It won't necessarily go over very well. If I were to do a dance party, an event at a club or something, my DJ style would be slightly different. Some of the stuff would still be similar, but it's not quite, an even fit. So these are specifically designed for, fitness.
Yeah. Side note, do you DJ in clubs or DJ out much anymore?
Not anymore. I mean, I've been DJing since 93, so it's been about 30 years, but in the last, 5 years, I've stopped doing live events, just because now I'm all in on this as a career, making one mix every week, and each mix takes around 40 to 50 hours to produce.
It's crazy.
So, and I don't really love music that much. There's a lot of DJs, they want to do it again the next. I'm like, no. I need 3 days in bed, no music. I listen to podcasts only, get me away from this.
Right.
I get burned out pretty easy, so no, I don't. But maybe someday I'll get the itch again. But as of now, I need the space from the music.
Yep. I hear you. You mentioned starting DJing in 1994 at 13 years old. I was born in 1981. You as well?
Hey, yeah, man.
Let's
Heck
go.
Yeah.
All right.
Right on.
Okay. So
just to put a timestamp on it, my very first vinyl album that I bought, I grew up, my dad had Michael Jackson, Thriller, and all that stuff, vinyl. But for people wondering, what was the big song in 94? At least for me, I went to a DJ store and bought Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It, the single, the big vinyl single, which at that time still cassettes and CDs were kind of the way to go. But I still have that at home. It's got a big picture of them on it. Yeah. So
sweet.
That was the year I started DJing. So yeah.
Yeah. So we were on similar paths. I started DJing in high school. My best friend Nick was buying records. I started following and hanging out with him. He went to Santa Cruz after high school. I went to Seattle. Okay. And, we both kept doing our thing and playing music. And in fact, him and my other partner, so I mentioned to you, Blessed Coast Sound is our crew of DJs. Mm-hmm. Those two guys are still active. They just performed at Reggae on the River for a couple thousand people last weekend. And they played one of my remixes, which I made for them. So even though I'm not at the festivals, my music still gets played there, which is
cool.
It's kind of cool.
Nice.
Can I ask you though, Brandon, so you use an app called Patreon if our listeners want to find your music. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Patreon.
Yeah, and you do a subscription type base, right? Tell us about that. Tell us how that works.
So it's $10 a month, and it gives you access to. I release a new mix every week, or I say three to four mixes a month, because sometimes I just need a week off. I try to take no more than 4 weeks off a year, but most of the time you'll get 4 mixes a month. And on top of that, you get access to all of the other. Each mix is 1 hour long, and access to all the other mixes that I've produced. And there's over 250, maybe close to 300 at this point.
Wow.
So with that subscription, it gives you access to all of those. And there's different types. There's ones that are just all hip hop music. There's ones that are all EDM music or all pop. And then the most popular ones are what I call multi-genre. And that's where it'll go from a hip hop song to a rock song to Elvis to Calvin Harris with 50 Cent rapping over the top, and then all these different layers. All with some heavy energy that kind of gets you going throughout. And I like to put, a lot of random stuff in there. One of the more popular ones to give people an idea is it'll come out of this kind of really heavy duty kind of twerking, female rapper song into Reading Rainbow, and then I put a little twerk beat underneath, reading, it's in a book, you take a look, reading, and everybody, when it gets played in class, people just laugh, but at the same time, the beat's there, so they're still moving. And so I give little twists and turns that hopefully don't take too much away from the energy, but there's enough of a nuance, kind of like, I remember that, to bring a smile, and then boom, the next song even bigger and keep you going. So again, it's designed to help people who, when they're doing a boring activity, maybe it'll make it more fun if you listen to the tunes. So patreon.com/DJ Brandon Wade.
Yeah. So for $10 a month, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, Brandon, because I'm constantly searching music and I run out quickly, but I mean, people are paying that for Spotify or for whatever. $10 a month was a no-brainer to me. And I just thought, this is super cool. Like I hadn't seen that, and I was surprised I hadn't seen that. And so it led me down the rabbit hole of Patreon. So this is what you do for your full business. You're doing this every single week. You're spending 30 to 50 hours compiling these mixes so that your listeners can have something every single week. That's your full-time gig.
That's
incredible.
And a lot of the subscribers are group fitness instructors, spin instructors, F45, Orange Theory, all that stuff. And then there's a lot of people that regular people that just want music, And so it's a little bit of both. My main target audience is the group fitness, but it's becoming about 50-50 at this point, meaning regular people and group fitness people. So,
was there ever a time where you were DJing fitness classes live?
Not live, because I was always the instructor, and obviously can't really do both. So I would just record a mix, and that's how I kind of put this formula together. I'd record a mix, and let's do a snapshot. This is 2015 on a Monday. I'm teaching 4 classes, 2 aerobics classes, 2 spin classes, and then 2 lecture classes in the evening. And I'm 6'2" and 200 pounds now. And I was probably 170 pounds. I mean, I was skinny as a rail just because I was doing that all day long. And the job was so hard, and I'd get bored unless I had a new mix. So it really forced my creativity. One, to just keep me entertained. But then I also saw the effect that it had on people. And really, it was back then that people said, hey, can I get access to these? And I started posting them online, and a few of them went viral. And that's kind of how the business jump from there, because I didn't really think I'd be DJing beyond college, to be honest, but it's just something that always kind of, hung around. So,
and I think it's pretty impressive that you found a way to DJ outside of college and at our age, but not have to go to the club every single night. Kudos to that. I mean, the fact that you're still doing what you love and as a creative outlet. Speaking of which, like, I'm trying to wrap my head around how the heck you do this every single week, stay inspired and stay creative. Can you share with us where some of your creativity and inspiration comes from to do such? I mean, I understand because I'm a DJ, right? Maybe our listeners, if they listen to this, they'll get it. But I want our listeners to understand the extent of the mixes that you're making. It's not just like you're putting a playlist together. So how are you staying inspired and finding the creativity to do this every single week, man?
It's hard. It's hard. And so obviously background in performance psychology, exercise psychology, my burnout is a theme that I really worry about. I try to stay conscious of it. And so I joke that I'm sick of music, but I really do need days off where I'm totally separate from it. And I take that very seriously to really disconnect. And so far, I haven't experienced too much burnout yet, but luckily the people who subscribe, they get it. They understand the intensity of the work that I do. So if I do need a week off, everybody's been pretty cool about it. But as far as finding the creativity, I think there's something, I think in my past life, I might have been a treasure hunter of some type, because every week is a little treasure hunt of, I scour the internet for new remixes, new mashups. And sometimes I'll find something that's a little bit off, but it'll give me an idea for me to create then something on my own.
Right.
So a lot of what I create, I don't sit in my head and be like, oh, those 2 songs were, it's really not that. It's more just through living life. And so so I'll spend 20 hours just going over the entire internet. And then I got, 10,000 songs. I look through my entire catalog just about every week, which I got to find a faster way to do it. but I'll go through everything, and I usually have an idea of what, like for next week, I'm going to do an 80s mix. And so, once I have the genre picked out, then I'll go through all my 80s songs and I'll look for new versions and all this kind of stuff. But the big thing in the DJ world is the release of stems on the equipment. So for the listener, stems is basically you can take any song, and now I can extract just the vocals from a song, or just the violin out of the song, or just the drum pattern, and you can chop a song up live, which gives me so much more freedom for remixes.
Right.
I think without that which only really came in existence within the last 2 years, so that's been huge for what I do. And so that's opened up a whole new, I guess, set of tools to play with. But without that, I'd definitely be struggling right now. So a big part of the answer to your question is I'm just in the right place at the right time in terms of technology. I don't know that I could have done this in 2010.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, the release of stems was a complete game changer, right?
Yeah.
And then again, for those listeners that aren't DJs like us, it allows you to basically take a song, any song, and you could pull out just the vocals. So you could have just the acapella, so you could remix. Brandon, you mentioned burnout, and I want to ask you a question on burnout. But since you mentioned that, I got to go a little bit deeper for myself as DJ side. So are you then and we don't have to go super deep on this, but like for a remix process for you, if you got that idea in your 80s mix, for example, you would take that original song, then you would extract just the acapella,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would remix that over a new beat from today or something like that. Is that what
Right.
you're talking about roughly?
Yeah. So, or, mashups is kind of the street term for it.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's one of the ways that I add some variety in the mix. And for me, that's the funnest part, I think. So that's what does prevent burnout, is the artist side of it.
Right.
If I was stuck in one genre, I was the '90s hip hop guy, I'd be so bored.
Right.
So luckily, what does prevent burnout is, next week I'm doing an '80s mix, and then the week after that, I don't know, but let's just say it's a classic rock mix, and then it's a '90s gangster rap mix after that. So having a new kind of project each week definitely gives me enough variety. That's one way to prevent burnout, because I'm certainly in the clubs, you're, depending on what style you DJ, you're kind of doing the same set all the time. That would be super boring.
Right.
So yeah, as far as, when I do make remixes and things like that, I would say I don't only do maybe 10% of a mix is something I've made. And also for the listener, I do use regular versions of the song too.
Sure.
It's not just all remixes. I like to have periods where it's regular and then a surprise remix and then regular and all this stuff.
Yep.
But a lot of what I do is look on the internet for stuff. I'll find a remix, but there's too much junk on it, and I just cut out the good stuff and extract that and then use it for something else. So a lot of what I'm doing is taking what's already been made and kind of making it a little bit better, or at least to match my style and my audience.
Yep. To fit in with what you're doing, you're taking what you want and leaving what you don't, and then making a pretty sweet mix from it. Burnout. You said you haven't burned out too much, but just burnout in general. This podcast, I'm a real estate broker. Most of our listeners are, and a lot of them do a high level of business. And me personally have burnt out a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to our listeners about burnout in general and what we can do to prevent burnout, A, and B, how we can recover from it if we do experience it.
This is a tricky one. So in this culture of hustle culture, let's say, one of the questions because I'm an anti-hustle person, I'm actually not a highly motivated person by nature. I get overwhelmed very, very easily. And unless it's fun, I won't really do it. And one of the questions, people in these hustle, let's say these influencers or whatever, they'll do these things like 8-week challenge, and you got to wake up every day and do these 45 things at 6 a.m. and blah, 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 blah. And I want to go to them. I want to line up all these hustle people and say, all right, new challenge for you. Let's see if you can do nothing for 6 weeks. And they will freak out. Oh my God, I'm not capable of doing that. I could do nothing for 18 weeks. No problem. I'm a master at doing nothing. And so, but what that means is there's some people that are naturally born to be high energy, high achievers. It's just in them. Yeah. Those are the people that are giving advice to people like me who were not born that way. It doesn't register. They're speaking a totally different language. And a lot of the marketing out there goes towards these people who they think they're super motivated. They're not. They're just riding their natural gift. In fact, they're not capable of not being motivated, which is to my point of to challenge them. So for those people, it's tough because they may not know if they hit burnout until it just boom smacks them in the face.
Yeah.
Where someone like me who's a little more sensitive to being overwhelmed, and I'm always kind of on the fence, I'm always going to play it a little bit cautious each step of the way. So one is, if you're finding that you're more tired, let's say in the real estate world, you're going to do a showing that day and you're just not looking forward to it. And you slept great the night before, but for some reason you still feel tired. That's a physical symptom that you could be potentially burned out. And the key is to recognize it as soon as you can. And you do need to take literally time off. That's the only way to kind of recover from it. And I say this, and I joked about the high achiever because it's really hard for them to take time off. I get it. And that's, but they really need to, if they can find a way to recognize that and hire a coach to teach them to relax and to force them to do that, would be one thing. So paying attention to the signs, being tired, not enjoying it as much, when everything else in your world is going okay. And that's where it's tricky. It's like, I should be happy, but for some reason I'm not. That, it can be signs of burnout, but it's a very tricky thing. And usually just time away from it does it a vacation, and you come back refreshed, and most people have experienced that. But monitoring the signs early on, some people, and it can be tricky. So that's, I guess that's the best answer I can give for now.
I took offense to what you said Not seriously, but
No, I know.
you described me, Brandon, because I'm that guy, and I'll just admit it. Like I have like 50 things I do before I leave my house in the morning.
I'm
Right?
jealous of you, so
And
I wish I could be like that.
but at the same time, dude, I'm jealous of you. And over these last 2 months, it's funny how timing works, right? I've had a major transition, and a major transition that I can tell is a shift of my life, getting into a softer side, a more gentle side, a more fun side.
Mhm.
And so this timing is perfect because I need to not do things sometimes. So thank you for the reminder. And though that's so important that, like, again, not everybody wants to be coached by David Goggins. That's not going to work. So for
Right.
the majority of the population that doesn't want that, they need your music because, like, they don't want to be hard. They just want to have fun, or maybe they need the kickstart to working out.
Right.
These
Right.
mixes will do that, I think, for people. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because burnout is real. Fitness will help that. And when we start to burn out, like you said, we get those symptoms. You said hire a coach and help you relax.
Yeah.
We look at the 15-point plan and we look at things like mindfulness, right? Which would be meditation, journaling, right? Our hobbies, our service, our giving back. And so those hopefully can help us balance things out and prevent burnout too.
And I want to add that, and I was obviously exaggerating my point about the hyperactive people. Not doesn't mean you need to sleep for 3 days the way I would. It could be plan a vacation that isn't a adventure based vacation. So you're up at 6 a.m. and you're going zip line and then scuba diving, and fine, as long as it's not attached to your job. So it can still be active. The idea is just to be out of work mode, earning money mode, into some other thing. So going back, like the hobbies part of your 15-point plan or whatever it is. One of the best decisions I've made in 2024 is on New Year's or whatever, I decided to sign up for improv comedy class.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Tell us more.
And so that was, it's all right. It's time to do a new hobby. Last year I tried salsa dancing, did it for a while. And I was okay. It may not be for me. I didn't fall in love with it, but I'm glad I did it. Improv comedy, it was the best decision I've ever made. And before people tune out, know that improv comedy was not invented by actors, for performers. It was invented by psychologists to help young people work with depression, work with social skills, work with anxiety. And this is going back to the 30s and 40s, where it was just a psychology-based program to bring more happiness to people and really help you be in the present moment. Because when you're doing improv and you're playing with other people, you have no choice but to be on stage and be in the moment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't invented to be performed in front of 100 people. You just do it with friends in a group. And so knowing that, I was shocked at how much joy it brought to my life because of the play element, the camaraderie element. You feel like you're on a team. And for me, I played on sports teams my whole life, but this is a team. It has nothing to do with sports, though.
Yeah.
It's just about joy, sharing joy, playing. So for those of you who are looking for a new hobby and a way to prevent burnout, new hobbies are a great way to prevent burnout, just to give your brain something else to do. I highly recommend improv. Again, not because you want to be a performer someday. It's not about that. It's really, you'll end up being happier. And yes, there's a little bit of stage fright and all that stuff, but that needs to be worked on too. And you'll find the joy in that. I'm sorry, but yeah, my little improv riff. It's been one of the best decisions.
Well, and I think that's super cool. But I also like how you said, like, every year you look at picking up a new hobby. That's a good practice of picking things up. A lot of people think, Brandon, they like see me as a realtor and as a former DJ, and they're like, "Man, you must be an extrovert." Are you more of an introvert?
Okay, so I am somewhat shy one-on-one, but if you say, Brandon, there's 500 people over there and they need you to say something, before you finish that sentence, I'll have the microphone in my hand and I'll be the most comfortable, because my brain requires high stimulus to be interested in something.
Got it.
And when I'm in front of a lot of people, that's when I'm actually the most relaxed.
Got it.
I'd be curious to wear a heart rate monitor and see where it would be, because I feel the most at peace when I'm performing. So that's why every job, for the most part, that I've had, professor, DJ, whatever it is, I've always been in front of people.
Yeah.
Because my brain needs that to take action.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what it prefers, right? So in a way, I'm an introvert, but I love, I do enjoy being on stage. But with friends, I'm not the center of attention. I don't need it that way. It's right. So that's why I say I'm more of an introvert, but certain situations you'll see this best side of me, only because my brain really feels at peace with that.
Got it. Well, the reason I asked was because I was curious if that improv was challenging for you because of that, but it sounds like maybe it's not. And where I was going with that was, I was curious if you noticed any difference in your creativity or inspirations with your music while you've been doing improv because your brain's been working differently. Has there been any changes with
Oh
that?
my gosh, yes. Yeah, which was so cool. And I think people, and again, this can go into even a real estate thing. The way what you learn in improv, you kind of see the world a little bit differently, characters a little bit differently, interactions a little bit differently. And for me, I get this kind of higher sense of in a scene, you need these certain things to happen, a little story to go. So when I record a mix, I'm telling you that each mix, I try to make it like a movie. Not that
Yeah.
there's a plot, but there's a sense of adventure in it. There's a lot of the theme in improv is yes and. You just, whatever they say, yes, and you add to it. Yes, and.
Mm.
If you say no in an improv scene, all the momentum stops.
Yeah,
And
right.
so for me with DJing, it's yes, and. All right, well, let me see if ABBA goes with Little John and Sweet Home Alabama and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of the yes, and, but with music, it's still got to sound good.
Yeah,
and there's a
right.
lot that doesn't work, which is fine. Which is the hardest part of my job is in writing fiction, they call it kill your darlings. Meaning you have this scene, it's great, but it just has nothing to do with the plot, and you got to cut it out. Like, but it's got a great joke, and so there's a lot of. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did a all female rock band kind of mix, and I did this blend into a twerked out version of Lisa Loeb, "Stay, will you stay?" Only hear what I want to. I don't pay attention to the right.
Yeah.
And this real kind of just edgy gangster beat. I loved it. I was like, God, it just doesn't fit though. I'll use it again at some point, but it was so hard to cut that from the thing. And in improv, there's some of that too, where you get an impulse to say something ridiculous, and sometimes you say it, or your brain can correct it real quick and find a better match and all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, anything creative, I think, always has an adjacent effect to other creative things that you're doing. I think with working with music all this time, for some reason, my eyes for design and art when I walk into a new space are hyper aware of it.
Really?
Textures, contrast, colors, all this stuff. I've become much more sensitive to design as I've become an artist full time, because my ears are just finely tuned. When I think of music, I think of textures, contrasts, a crunchy guitar sound. All right, let me put a Whitney Houston vocal on it to soften that. What does that feel like?
Oh, right.
And it's the same thing as I look in your background, and I see that lampshade with kind of the holes in it, right? And then there's the orange kind of next to it. Like, there's a lot of contrasting textures. It's like a sheer thing, whatever it is. But working with arts, I think it enhances your whole artistic brain. So somebody taking improv, let's say they're a real estate agent, it might be crazy, but they may then, they'll be better showing the house. They can riff a little more. And then also just the design of the house. They might notice little things that might take away from a positive feeling, to adjust a pillow or whatever. I'm kind of riffing, but with hobbies, I encourage people to do something in the arts if they can, as well as fitness, kind of do both.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's on the plan, is that we know when we do those hobbies, we get so much joy and different activation in our brain.
Yeah.
Gives us a break from work, gives us that kick of that dopamine that we look for. So finding those hobbies is super important in our life, in the daily life.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, signing up for it is a key factor. The accountability, signing up for the class. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get a whole paint set and paint every day. No, you won't. There's no accountability there. Accountability is huge, especially if you're over the age of like 30. And, we all did great in elementary school because we had to show up every day and the teacher was there every day.
Right.
Or great meaning we were there consistently for the most part.
Right.
And we need to do that as adults if you can. I mean, accountability has been a huge thing that I've learned in the last couple of years, because I used to think I could do it all on my own. But having that set date and time, whether it's a fitness class or painting class or improv class, that's a huge part. And I don't want people to overlook that. That's a big thing of staying on top of it.
100%. Outside of like going to your improv or your fitness classes, do you have any accountability partners in your life that help you with those types of things?
Yeah. I have. So my weakness is marketing. I can't stand it. It's someday I'll be able to hire somebody. I'm not quite there yet, but I have, where I need to make videos for my Instagram or something like that. I can't get myself to do it, even though it's performing, even though it's all this. It's so uncomfortable for me that I'll text my buddy, hey, if I don't record 3 videos today, I owe you $100. I got to do it by midnight. He knows. And I've never had to pay him. I always do it, but it's that little text that absolutely puts everything in line for me, because it stops the monkey brain from telling me all this crazy stuff, and it just knocks me in line.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm the type of person that definitely needs that external stimulus. Being an kinesiology professor, this might sound ridiculous. One of the classes I taught for 8 years was taught people how to be personal trainers and group fitness instructors. And I've been struggling with my own fitness commitment for about 4 years, where I would go, but I wouldn't be as committed as I want to. And I know everything you need to know about the gym. I know all this psychology stuff. I used to be music would get me in there, but I get kind of burned out on my music, so I'm not going to go listen to it when I work out. And I go to work out at UNLV. I'm based in Vegas, and I saw that they have trainers there. They're student trainers. It's $20 a session, and I hired one, and I said, by the way, and we met our first time, and I said, I am a kinesiology professor. Don't feel bad. I just need you here to hang. And he was like, pale, right? But I've been working with him for 8 weeks now, man. I'm in best shape I'm in my 40s, best shape of my 40s. And it's really, and we have fun workouts, but it's just a great hang. I look forward to just seeing him, and we just shoot, and just talk. And so the accountability is there, because there's many days I wouldn't have worked out, but once I hang with him, it's locked in. Yeah. So again, this goes back to hire somebody. If you're struggling with something, hire somebody, or do the text thing with a friend. Yeah. People overlook that, and they spend so much time on willpower. If you can make that stuff simple, you save a lot of willpower that can be used in other things, which will then prevent burnout.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people make this thought. They go, well, Brandon, I can't afford it, man. I can't afford a personal coach. But there you go. Find a friend and text them. Costs nothing.
Right.
So you got excuses or you got results. And if you can't afford a trainer right now, just find a friend. My brother's been that for many years. I was in a fitness group. We were in a WhatsApp group at 4 a.m. for about a year and a half. Every single day I had to text that group. Right. Yeah. And that got me going. It got me up. Brandon, I got to ask, so what do you listen to, man, if you're not listening to your own mixes?
Well, I do listen to my own mixes. I guess I should say when I'm in that kind of 3 or 4 day window where I need a break from music, that's, but, because when I hear music, my brain goes, oh, how will this affect people? I love the effect music. So I'm not necessarily a big music fan myself, but I do have my own thing. I'm a big nerd. Like if I could go to any concert, all right, Joe from the 90s, now his name's Joe Thomas, but Joe, the R&B singer, he said, I want to know what turns you. I love that cheesy 90s R&B. That is my wheelhouse, right?
Nice.
I saw Boyz II Men here in Vegas a while ago, and some of the 2000s R&B. So I like that kind of soulful R&B vibe is definitely something on my own, to where I might even make a mix of that at some point and have it be like a cool down workout or whatever. But that would be my thing. But I'm big on melody. I don't really pay attention to lyrics. I just love a catchy melody, and a beat that's somewhat either danceable or just it just feels good. So yeah, that would be my thing. What about you?
What's in my? I just recently, for some reason, came across Shabuzi's Bar Song, and that thing's been on my damn repeat.
Very catchy. Yeah.
So I grew up listening to reggae music. I'm a huge Caribbean music fan. So reggae music, dancehall music is what I listen to. And I'm constantly looking for brand new reggae music is what I'm listening to.
Okay. Nice.
You mentioned kind of being sensitive to people and music affecting people. It seems like you're pretty in tune with yourself and you're pretty in tune with others. Do you find yourself to be in tune with people? And is that a way that you're able to connect with people through music and connect with people deeper? Has that helped you with your health and fitness journey along the way of just an ability to connect deeper with people and how they're feeling?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have I've been diagnosed as HSP, which is hypersensitive person. And it's relatively common. About 10% of mammals has this trait. And what it is you're hyper aware of your surroundings. You're hyper aware of what everybody in the room is feeling. I mean, every human can feel this at some point, but from what I understand is, people who are hypersensitive, it's like times 100 of what the average person feels. You're taking in all this data. I think in that movie Good Will Hunting, the Matt Damon character says, Mozart could just play the piano and he never had to study. It just came out of him. And he says, that's how I am with math. And we all had that kid in high school or whatever who could just do math without even reading the book. He just could do it. So being a hypersensitive person, we tend to understand the psychology of others that way where it's just natural. So a lot of people will come to me for advice. I can tell when a song is working or not working in a group of people.
Yeah.
I would walk in to teach a spin class and I could tell when the energy's low and how to bring it up and all that stuff. So in a lot of ways it's a superpower, but it's also hard to turn off, meaning you're absorbing these feelings, these energies all the time, people's moods, that it does weigh me down. I can't watch scary movies or the news or anything negative like that because it's really hard to dig myself out of it. You feel stuff, again, 20 times more than a neurotypical person. So in some ways it's a superpower. In some ways it can be a hindrance. But with that, I've found jobs and careers where I can hopefully highlight it. And the music thing has definitely been one thing where the idea is just to prevent boredom. And I'll think, all right, well, everybody's heard that Shabuzi song 1,000 times. Let's see if we can add a new spin to it without taking away the essence and, and keep it going or whatever it is. So I think, with DJing, I can always tell when a DJ has a sense of the crowd versus a DJ who just loves music and they're playing it in front of people. There's a big difference between the two. And here in Vegas, I'll go out to the various clubs and stuff, really to study the DJ to make sure I'm up with the new stuff and the new trends and all that stuff. And I can tell when, that guy's just a producer who's pressing the play button versus, this guy gets the soul of moving a crowd. And not, both are doing the best they can. I'm not knocking them, but there's definitely, I can sense that for sure.
In the reggae and Caribbean world, there is a DJ and then there's a selector.
Okay.
And the selector is the OG. The selector is the one that selects the song that the people need to hear. The DJ, like you said, they can just be playing the songs, but the selector is the person that everybody looks up to because they're the one that know the right song to play at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's definitely a skill that I like how there's a different term, like a hierarchy almost, like,
Well, actually, and I got to go farther because in Jamaica, if you say a DJ, that actually means somebody that's singing, but they're more like spitting. They're not singing like a melody, but they're rapid more. And so in Jamaica, a DJ was actually not the person that played the music. In Jamaica, the DJ was somebody with the deeper voice or the stronger voice, and they're spitting on the songs rather than singing on the songs. And the selector was a person, but then that transitioned into the DJ. But you're right. There are people that play music, and there are people that know how to curate music to make people dance.
Yeah, yeah,
and they're very different. And I asked that because of, back to the points, the influences. Making sure that we only have those good influences in our life. Like you said, if you watch a scary movie or have negativity in your life, it's really going to stay there. And what I wanted to kind of end with here is how you've positively influenced me, and I want to thank you for that. And I wanted to have you on the show so that people could get more familiar with you. Clearly 20 million people, probably 30 million already know about you, Brandon, but your music has really helped me with my fitness and with my life, and I enjoy it. And it was a real honor to have you here on the show and talk more about this, and who knows what projects we can work on in the future. But is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I don't think so. No. We covered, just if they want the music, it's patreon.com/DJ Brandon Wade. And it's a subscription, but it's not one of those that's hard to cancel. Like if you try it and it's not a match for you, like it's just a couple clicks. I can't stand those things where it's just a pain in the tail to cancel. That's not this at all. Give it a try. If it's not for you, fine. So no, I think we covered it. This is great, man. This is good.
Yeah. DJ Brandon Wade is his name. And if you're not ready to subscribe, that's okay. Just go to SoundCloud or just Google DJ Brandon Wade. You'll come across some of his mixes that you can play. And I have a good feeling you're going to enjoy them. Your workouts are going to turn up from them, and you probably go subscribe. Yeah, Brandon.
There's a lot of quick samples on my Instagram too. It's just one word, DJ Brandon Wade, WADE on my Instagram. And there's a bunch of little samples on there too, and links to all that stuff if people want to quick check that out quick.
That's right. So just go search DJ Brandon Wade, BRANDON WADE.
Yep.
Get that right?
Yeah.
DJ Brandon Wade. And you're going to thank him for the music and thank me for putting you on the tip. It's going to turn your workouts up, dang it. And you're going to have a better time hitting that movement point on the 15-point plan. And even if you're not working out, you can play it while you're doing your hobbies. You can use it to positively influence yourself. So Brandon, thank you for joining us here on the show and for allowing us to hit those 15 points even easier. And I'm looking forward to my workout tomorrow with your mixes. And again, I can't thank you enough for joining us and for all the music that you put out there. Thank you, Brandon.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you.